Last generation, one of my favourite new IPs released was Horizon. The first game, Zero Dawn, felt like a breath of fresh air alongside The Witcher 3 and has to be considered one of the benchmarks when it comes to Western action RPGs, with its place in Sony's catalogue showing how true that is. We're supposed to be getting the game this year, and after the dedicated state of play we got for Forbidden West the other day, I felt like this was the perfect time to go over some things I personally want to see from the next entry in Aloy's journey. A wish list, if you will. While we've already been told melee combat has been built upon in Forbidden West, I don't just want it to be better than what we got in the first game, I want it to be something that's actually more of a viable method of combat. While the bow and other ranged weapons are always going to be the main system in Horizon, having some kind of combat system that works for more than just creating space between Aloy and any enemies you're fighting would be nice. I don't think an exact version of this combat system would work really, but something in the same vein of Arkham's free flow combat, or an entirely different kind of direction, something more Dark Souls, more intuitive system, could fit really well, I feel. Providing it doesn't act as an entire replacement for Aloy's ranged arsenal. One of the criticisms I have of the original Horizon actually comes from its DLC, The Frozen Wilds. The expansion story feels like it's just Zero Dawn Light, being a more compressed version of the story we already see through the main game. Evil, genocidal AI wants to kill all life because of reasons. While there are definitely key differences between Hades from the main game and Hephaestus in Frozen Wilds, it doesn't go far enough to feel like it's entirely fresh. While that is a criticism of a DLC expansion, it does sit in the back of my mind that Forbidden West could see another similar storyline, with either Hades again, or an entirely new AI. This doesn't look like it's going to be the case, at least from what we can already infer from the ending of the first game, with seemingly Sylens taking over that antagonistic role, but nonetheless, I just don't want another big evil AI. Something the first game did really well was give a balanced, varied set of weapons for Aloy to use throughout the game that allowed players to have a type of variety as to how they play. With the limited slots of the weapon wheel, you couldn't have access to each type of weapon at any one time, so you needed to either switch it up depending on what situation you were going into, or just have a really good loadout that you feel best suited your playstyle. This doesn't just go for weapon types either, but also ammo types, with things like fire arrows, freeze bombs, and sticky bombs being a couple of examples. That's something I want to see expanded upon in Forbidden West. We saw in the gameplay demo a glue grenade sort of weapon, and I'd like to see a wider variety in ammo types alongside more weapons in general. We also saw what seemed to be like a grenade launcher through the spear. I don't know what that was, but I can't really think of any specific examples, but I do feel that the technology available in Horizon's world could lead to a lot more creative weapon choices or ammunition that I don't think would be too hard to implement. This doesn't mean I want full gear customization like a Destiny or Halo's multiplayer. This is an entirely artistic point, but the armors in the first game for the most part all looked pretty shitty. None of them looked outright bad, but there was one or two sets besides the Shield Weaver quest that actually just, I could say, looked good. And even then, as much as I do like the Shield Weaver suit, it doesn't look all that great. I just want Forbidden West to have some nicer looking cosmetics and nicer looking armor sets. Something we've seen since Forbidden West got announced was the ability for Aloy to swim underwater, increasing the amount of exploration we have available to us as the player. This was shown in the gameplay we got the other day, but not really expanded upon too much. If you watch as Aloy dives into the water, it looks like a pre-rendered, almost cutscene, which could lean to any underwater section being set in scripted locations. While having the ability to traverse underwater is great in any capacity, my hope is that it would be a dynamic system, meaning anywhere that's deep enough for Aloy to go underwater, she can, and can just swim anywhere she wants. And following on from that, something I don't remember seeing in a really well done way is combat underwater. And there may be a reason for that, but it doesn't take away from it nonetheless. With the added exploration of being to go underwater, being able to fight underwater is something that I want to see if it's possible and see how they would implement it. We saw a snap more swimming in that gameplay trailer, and then having something other than just being an obstacle for the player to avoid, instead also being able to have a combat scenario under there, would I think make a great step further in making Forbidden West feel that much more like a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn than just another version of Zero Dawn. The seventh and final thing in this video that I want to see in Forbidden West is better side content. One thing that the first game did really well is to not fall directly into the open world hole of just filling its world with collectibles and copy-pasted missions. Things like the tall neck parkour segments, the Shield Weaver quest, and the Cauldrons all stick out in my mind as memorable side activities to do in Zero Dawn, but aside from that, nothing really comes to mind. The Hunter's Lodge was a neat idea that doesn't really feel like it was fully realised, while most of the side quests in the game felt unimportant. Seeing Tallnecks and the Cauldrons will return alongside side missions that feel integral to whatever it is Aloy's doing in Forbidden West would go a long way to make it feel like there's not a point in the game where I'm wasting my time doing this side content, or just doing something that's not as interesting as everything else in the game. And that's it. 7 things I would like to see personally in Horizon's Forbidden West. My 7 wishes listed. It's one of my most anticipated games of the year, especially since I refuse to believe God of War isn't getting delayed at least a year. And from what we saw at the State of Play event, Forbidden West looks to be worth the investment.